Welcome to Bottled, Barreled, and Brewed. Whoa there! I'm your host, Cooper Green. We're in Austin, Texas. I'm really excited and I'm floating away! So for stop number one, we're here at Duchman Family Winery in Driftwood, Texas, outside of Austin. We're gonna be hanging out with winemaker Dave Riley. Obviously, they make incredible wine here, but what really drew me to this place was Dave's story. I think you guys are really gonna dig it. Speaking of Dave, I'm supposed to meet him in the vineyard, so let's head that way. Dave, how's it going, man?
Good, Cooper, nice to see you.
Good to see you. So, I'm not gonna lie, these look like dead grapes.
They're not dead.
Okay,
I promise. No. They are dormant. Once we get our first freeze, they go to sleep.
Take a little nap.
Next year, I assure you, this will be all green and lush.
More of what you kind of think with traditional vineyard.
Much more picturesque.
Yeah.
Wine country.
How long have these been here?
These have been here about 12 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This is an Alarcon grapevine.
Okay.
It is actually native to southern Italy. It's grafted actually in California. We buy it on different rootstock that grows in this soil, and we grow Alarcon grapes.
So it's moved a lot. It's moved from Italy to California, now here in Texas.
Exactly.
So how many types of grapes are you growing?
We grow about 10, and that's not us growing. We actually contract with other growers.
Gotcha.
There's this theory on let farmers grow grapes and let winemakers make wine.
You've actually been both of those things, is that correct?
That is correct. I started in the business as a grape grower, planted a vineyard in 2000, about 5 miles from this one.
Wow.
And probably for lack of better sense and mismanagement of time.
Right, how does that work? Do you just buy some land and throw some grapes in there, or what is that like?
It's almost that simple. It is a lot of work to build the infrastructure and to plant all of the vines.
And did you just go into that blind?
I did a lot of self-teaching on vineyard management and read a lot of books and
Googling?
Well, it was, but yeah, a lot of Googling.
Early Googling.
Early Googling. And, introduced myself to the right people that were knowledgeable to kind of help me along.
Speaking of making wine, should we go check out that process, do a little bit of the fun stuff?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome, let's walk.
All right.
Okay, Dave, I know we were supposed to get out of the cold, but it is still very cold in here. Why is it so cold?
It is cold. It is actually cellar temperature is 55 year-round, which makes it miserable in the wintertime.
Sure.
But it's a huge relief in the summertime.
Okay, amazing. And you want that consistent temperature for the winemaking process?
Yeah, aging of the red wine in barrels.
Okay. What's this big scary machine do?
This is actually the receiving hopper. And so when we get grapes in, they come in 1,000-pound capacity picking bins. This screw auger here in the bottom spins and actually conveys all the grapes into this machine.
Okay.
Which is the stemmer crusher, which does exactly what the name says.
Sure.
It removes the stems from the grapes.
Okay.
And then as they pass through little rollers that actually just gently squeeze the grape, let a little bit of the juice out. From this point, if we're making red wine, we'll pump the grapes, everything but the stems, into a tank to ferment. And that'll ferment with the skins. And actually, the reason red wine is red is because of the contact with the skins.
Gotcha.
So you can actually make white wine from red grapes if you just press
Don't put the skin.
Yeah, if you treat it like a white wine. If we're making white wine, we actually go from the stemmer straight into this machine, which is called the press. We fill the press, close the door, and this machine has a bag in it that you can't see, but it inflates to a low PSI and presses a little bit of juice out, holds it there, deflates, the whole thing rotates, breaks it all back up again, and then does the same thing a number of times.
Gotcha.
It takes about 2.5 hours to press out about 7 tons of grapes.
Wow. And so from here, where do we go?
The juice runs out the bottom into the pan at the bottom.
Okay.
We then can pump it into a tank in the other room.
Okay, to the tanks. All right, Dave. This is fermentation tank?
This is fermentation tank. So we pump from the stemmer crusher, everything but the stems, grapes come in here, and we start fermentation. That lasts about 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
So you've got the transition from sweet grape juice to dry red wine.
And what exactly happens to the grapes during fermentation? What causes them to lose their sugars?
So the yeast is consuming the sugar in the juice and converts into alcohol.
Where does that yeast come from?
We add the yeast. You can actually get grapes to ferment with wild yeast. There's yeast all over the place. As soon as you break the grape open and the sugar is exposed, wild yeast will take care of it and ferment it. But you don't know what you're gonna get.
Sure.
And so we use strains that we know for sure cultivated for the quality of wine that we want to
It
produce.
seems like it's a big deal. You want the right
It's a big deal. And so twice a day, we'll actually pump the fermenting juice out of this valve up over the top, and that kind of keeps everything mixed up.
Essentially stirring it.
Essentially.
You don't have a giant wooden spoon at the
No,
top?
we don't have that. But
When you have the grapes here initially, they haven't been pressed yet. They've just gone through the crusher stimmer if they're a red wine.
Right.
Do they then go from here to the press?
that's exactly right.
Okay.
So we'll drain the tank. At that point, we shovel it all out. Then we go straight into the press with it.
Oh, interesting.
And it goes through the same press cycle.
Once you squeeze that last little bit in the presser, it feels like that's barrel time. Is that correct?
That's right.
So it looks like we've got a nice little trail of barrels here. Does that lead to the barrel room?
It does.
Shall we follow the barrel trail?
Yes.
Let's do it. So these barrels right now, what are these being used for?
So these were just emptied. This is actually the 2017 Dolcetto that is in the tank we were just in front of.
Gotcha.
That wine is getting ready to be bottled in the spring.
How many times will you use these barrels?
We actually use them really until they leak or until they develop aromas that we don't care for.
Oh shoot, here are all the barrels. So this is the barrel room.
This is the barrel room.
And those are barrels?
They are, all of them.
I knew it.
All 700 of them.
700?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not all just one type of wine.
No. These are where we age our red wines only. Our white wines stay in stainless steel.
So with those different types of grape, are they spending different amounts of time in the barrel?
Yes, definitely. So Sangiovese would spend like maybe a year aging in the barrel, whereas our Alarcon could spend 2 to maybe 3 years aging in the barrel.
Wow. And what does the barrel aging process really impart on the wine?
You're getting a little bit of oak flavor depending on the age of your barrel. If we have a brand new oak barrel, gonna give us a big heavy hit of oak. Say our Alarcon will have 10 new barrels out of 100. And so that would be 10% new oak. And then we can kind of blend accordingly when we put those pieces together before we bottle.
So those are the red wines, and we've got the white wines behind us in the fermentation tanks. Is there a reason you don't barrel age your white wines?
Yeah, actually, we don't barrel age white wines because we like to maintain that crisp acidity that I like in our varietals that we use for white wines.
Gotcha. So you would lose a little bit of that from the
You
wood
lose a little
flavor.
bit. You get the creamy, butterscotchy flavors. You know, they have their place, but in my opinion, they don't have their place in my portfolio.
Yeah. Now that you've got your reds that have been aged in the barrel and you've fermented your whites, then it's on to bottling?
That's right. We actually have our own bottling line. You want to go check it out?
Yes, please.
Let's go.
Cool. Oh, this is cool.
So this is the bottling line.
What are we looking at here? What does this do to the bottle?
So this first stop is a degas. It basically pulls the air out of the bottle and injects nitrogen into the bottle.
Okay.
So then when it goes through this station is actually the fill spout, which is not filling because there's no wine in the
We're not
machine
running
right now.
wine right now.
It would have the wine cascade down the sides of the bottle, but it's not mixing with air. It's just falling into nitrogen.
I see.
Which doesn't absorb into wine.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're not oxidizing the wine as you're filling the bottle.
Right, the whole idea is to keep oxygen out.
Exactly. And so coming around here, this next stop, it's gonna get a cork. But before the cork goes in, when it pushes up, there's again a vacuum drawn on the headspace. So
Oh.
it pulls the air out of the headspace, presses the cork in, so it's not pushing air into the bottle.
So everything is just to get as much of the oxygen out of the bottle as possible and away from the wine.
Exactly.
Amazing. So it's gonna make its way
It's
around.
gonna make its way around,
And we land here.
which is capsule and label. So as the bottle comes through, there it is, capsule, and this rotating part in the center is actually called the sleeker. What it does is it just has rubber rollers right there. As the bottle goes in, it just sleeks the capsule on, makes it kind of
Smooths it out?
shrink right on there. And it's gonna come
Okay.
around for a label here.
What?
And
Shall I
there you have
grab it?
Grab
Look
it.
at that. That is awesome.
So imagine that, one bottle every 2 seconds.
Wow.
And that's about the speed that those come off the line.
That's a lot of bottles, man. It is. That is incredible. Can I taste some wine, please? I want to taste some wine.
Let's go taste some wine.
Awesome. All right, Dave, tasting room.
Tasting room.
I'm so excited.
Best room in the building.
No doubt. So when we're doing a tasting of wine, what are some things that you want me to pay attention to, things to look for?
We're gonna smell the wine. Is it fruity or is it earthy? And then we'll taste the wine. And when I taste wine, I'm looking for things like balance, which
Joy.
is
Happiness.
And what does it taste like? Do you like it? Does it feel good? And then the best part, you drink it.
Okay, sweet.
Let's start with this 2017 Vermentino. This Vermentino is grown on the Texas High Plains.
Okay.
We've been working with this grape for over 10 years now. This one sees no oak at all, only stainless steel. And that's what's gonna give it this crisp acidity. Makes it
Notice
very
the
refreshing.
swishing. What does that do?
Yeah, we're getting all the volatiles to come out so we can get a good smell on it.
It already smells really crisp, and there's almost like an appliness kind of going on.
Yeah, definite fruit, apple and pear, and also a lot of citrus in this wine for me.
Big citrus for sure. Do we get to taste it now?
Let's taste it.
Okay, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That's so crisp and clean. That's really good. And I did notice when you took that first sip, there's a little slurp. Is that intentional?
It is, and so it's the same as swirling it in the glass. You're actually putting that air through the wine in your mouth.
Very cool. I'm gonna take one more sip to try that.
Wanna try that?
Yeah. How do you do that without choking? I sucked a good amount of Vermentino into my throat.
Practice.
Okay. Shall we move on to number 2?
We shall.
What do we do in between?
Dump.
Oh, buy wine. I need to drive home.
Next, we will taste the 2015 Montepulciano.
Okay.
We can do a little red wine rinse.
Okay.
I prefer to rinse a glass with wine rather than water. It's actually less interference of the wine.
Interesting. When you say the wine is a 2015, is that when it was barreled or is that when it was bottled?
It's the year that it was harvested.
Harvested. I
So
see.
we refer to that as vintage.
Okay. And how long has it been in the bottle? Is that part of the aging process at all?
It is. It tends to soften, so the tannins kind of integrate more into the wine. Gives it what people consider to be like velvety texture.
Still has some sweetness though.
You associate fruit with things that are sweet.
Sure.
And so when you smell it, it smells like fruit.
Sure,
But
okay.
this wine is actually fermented dry, so there's no sugar at all.
Oh, very interesting. Shall we? Well, Dave, this is another killer wine. I love anything that's dry and red, and this is both of those things.
Well, wait for the next one.
Oh, I'm so excited. Number 3.
The 2015 Alarcon.
And again, these names are coming from the grape.
Yeah, the actual name of the grape is Alarcon.
Okay.
And so grown in other parts of the world, they'll call it something else by the region. The very easy one to know is Champagne.
Gotcha.
There can only be one Champagne, but it's from Champagne,
It's
France.
made in Champagne.
It's made in Champagne.
This, however, is made here in the great state of Texas.
This to me has more of the earth components, a little bit of
For sure.
like tobacco, leather.
I definitely feel that because it's less sweet on the nose.
Right.
You don't
So
have
you're
as
not getting
much
those
of the
fruit.
fruit.
Yeah. The Alarcon grape is super high tannins. The structure is there, the acidity is there to give this wine huge age potential. So this wine could hold on for 20 years.
Wow. Well, shall we? Man, that's awesome.
That's a mouthful.
That is so full. You mentioned bottle life on this wine specifically being 20 years, is that what you said?
Yes.
What exactly happens in that process, and what is that maybe compared to other wines?
Not every wine will age for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. That tannin structure and acidity is what gives it the building blocks to age and mature in the bottle. The cork not only keeps wine in the bottle, it's also kind of an integral part of this as an aging vessel, where the cork actually breathes. Like there's just a very small amount of air exchange over a very long period of time, helps mature the wine. In the warehouse, for example, we actually store the bottles upside down. And what that does is keeps the cork wet. The last thing you want is for the cork to dry out, because then it can fail and you get a lot of oxygen in a short period of time, and that's not beneficial for your wine aging.
That is incredible. Well,
That's
Dave,
right.
this has been absolutely amazing. This is genuinely one of my favorite reds. Is it too much to cheers?
Absolutely not.
Oh my gosh, let's go. Cheers, dude. Our next stop in Austin is Tequila 512, where owner Scott Willis just might let me try some of their award-winning tequila. Yo, Scott, are you here?
Back here, come on in.
Okay, sweet. Hey man, how's it going?
Hey man, how you doing?
Good to see you, dude. So we are in the offices right now, correct?
Correct, so they're headquarters.
You don't distill here because you have to make tequila in Mexico.
So tequila has to be made in one of 5 states. The majority of it comes from the state of Jalisco, where the town of Tequila is.
Right, because you had to go to Mexico to find those distilleries. What was that process like?
You know, I found a guy online actually that was trying to start a business. Yeah, it was pretty crazy how it turned out. Kind of like a Craigslist ad, basically.
Cool.
I flew down there with my girlfriend at the time, my wife now. We flew down, met him in Guadalajara, and we hopped in his pickup truck and drove around Tequila country. Spent a lot of time trying different production methods, different distillation times and filtration times, and finally settling on what eventually would become Tequila 512.
You mentioned the name, obviously Tequila 512, 512 being the area code for Austin, right?
Right.
Is Austin kind of the city, the vibe, is that a big part of your company?
The whole idea was creating a tequila that was kind of an ode to the city of Austin, what
Very
the
cool.
city of Austin is about. And it's live music, it's festivals, it's outdoor lifestyle, it's active people. And really trying to get a tequila brand that could have that vibe and that feel of the city of Austin.
How many types of tequila do you make?
So currently we have 3. So we have our Blanco tequila, which was our very first one, and it's unaged. That one won Best Tequila in the World, actually, at the World Spirits Competition.
That's all?
Yeah, once that happened, we eventually released 2 more. So we have a Reposado tequila, which is 7 months in bourbon barrels. We have our Añejo tequila, which means aged, and that is 13 months in bourbon barrels.
Wow, I feel like this is a good time to go do some tasting.
It's my favorite part, man. Let's do it.
Let's go. What do you got for me? What have you got?
So we've got all 3. So we've got our award-winning Blanco that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
We have our Reposado, which is our first aged expression, 7 months in bourbon barrels. And we have our Añejo, 13 months in bourbon. Anytime I do a tasting, I tell everybody, start with the Blanco.
Sure.
Even if you're not a tequila fan, because it gives you the kind of the foundation for what the others are going to taste like once they go into the bourbon barrel. So what you want to see in any good tequila is legs on the side of the glass. Put it in the glass, you move it around, you take a look. That oiliness where it sticks to the side of the glass, picture that happening in your mouth. So it's going to coat your mouth. So you know you got a good quality spirit. Give a little smell.
Oh my gosh, the nose on that is awesome.
Yeah, so you get some spice, some earthiness, some pepper in it, which is really indicative of essential lowlands tequila. You know, one of the differences in ours, and you'll pick it up when you taste it, is we got a little more sweetness in ours. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the distillery sits in a mango grove.
Oh, wow.
Open fermentation tanks, we use traditional stone ovens. So all those things kind of add to the flavor profile of this specific brand here.
It almost feels like you've added things to this, more than just a straight tequila. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that's just, again, that's the production method.
Well, and you mentioned the sweetness, and to me, I really get that, obviously in the initial taste, but in the aromatics and the aftertaste.
When you're doing a tasting, anytime we're doing a tasting, I tell people, pour an ounce or 2, that should be 4, 5, or 6 sips even, because it'll start to develop more and more, and as you get more and more sips in, it changes. You pick up some spice on one, and some earthiness, and some sweetness as you go along. So continue to sip it, it's gonna develop in the mouth. So this is our Reposado tequila. So this is aged 7 months in bourbon barrels.
Awesome.
And what that does to it is imparts flavor from the bourbon, obviously, that was in the barrels before.
Right.
It also imparts the color that you see. So any 100% agave tequila that has color has come from a barrel.
Gotcha.
We stick with traditional bourbon barrels. I think it imparts a really fantastic flavor. Yeah, so you get that spice, that pepper, that oakiness.
Yeah, you really get the wood like right as I swallowed it, and then what I love is you can still taste this first one in this.
Which is a good point. This is why I tell people, try the Blanco first, even if you're not really a Blanco tequila lover.
Sure.
It gives you kind of a good foundation for what the master distiller and I were trying to come up with, which is this one. This is the purest form of it before it's been in barrels and it's been blended and other things have happened to it. And finally, try Añejo tequila. So ours is 13 months in bourbon barrels. Now to be Añejo, it has to be aged 12 months up to 3 years.
Okay.
So it's a relatively young Añejo, but I think you're gonna notice there's a dramatic change from the Reposado to our Añejo.
Wonderful. And that is the only difference, is the time in the barrel between the Reposado and the Añejo.
In this one, you're gonna get a lot more bourbon notes.
Okay.
So you're gonna get a lot more of that vanilla, a lot more of that cinnamon, the things you expect to get from a good bourbon, while still getting the qualities of the Blanco tequila that we tried initially.
Oh man, you smell that immediately.
Yeah, I mean, this one's beautiful. I love this one a lot. There's really this balance between aging tequila, having it still actually taste like and have the characteristics of tequila.
Of course.
Because if you want to buy bourbon, then go buy bourbon.
Go buy bourbon.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's
so
amazing.
there's a nice balance. So I think, you know, for us, this Añejo hits that perfect note of bourbon notes, mellowed out tequila, but you still get that tequila flavor in there.
Yeah, man. That is excellent, Scott. The more we talk about the production, I think it's really important for us to go see the production. So I feel like we need to head to Mexico.
I feel like we have to, Cooper.
It's our responsibility.
Why don't we have the rest of this,
Sure.
and then we'll go.
Yes,
What do you
sounds
think?
great. It's Mexico.
Ay,
We did it! I am here in Tequila, Mexico. I slept in this giant barrel last night, and I think it's time to go find Scott and Chris. Scott, how's it going, man?
Hey, good to see you, man.
Yeah, made it. Thank you very much. So it seems like we're in and around the agave fields right now.
Yeah, it's it's the most important part of what we do. Is
Sure.
Making sure that we have great agave.
I know with tequila, we're using specifically a blue agave. What is it about blue agave that makes tequila tequila?
It's just, the flavor. You know, this plant has been used for many centuries. It started with the indigenous people.
How long does it take to mature, and then what do you do to prep that for distillation?
You know, to grow up a piña, it takes about 7 till 12 years
Wow.
of age. Then goes the jimador. The jimador is a guy with a lot of experience in the agave field. They know when a plant is ready to be harvested just for looking at the base of the leaf.
Interesting.
And then he's going to start the harvesting.
Okay.
He cuts down the root. The root is by the surface. Once in the ground, he's going to chop up the leaves. And at the end, it's going to look like a pineapple fruit. That's what we call them piñas.
Oh, okay. And what happens? What do you do with those piñas?
They're loaded on a truck, and then we bring them back here to cut and put in the oven. So you want to go check it out?
Yes, I would love to check it out.
Right now.
Let's do it. Wow.
Great.
This is so cool. That's the agave being cooked right now. Is that what I'm smelling?
Sugar's here. You can smell the air.
So this is our pile of piñas?
Yeah, normally we have about 60 or 80 tons every
Really?
3 days.
Wow.
We just put them into the furnaces. We use the steam.
Steam?
Okay? Yeah, we stick them up for 40 hours. Yeah,
Jeez.
then we're going to turn off the hot steam, open up the doors, what is happening with the number 3.
Yeah.
They're cooling down, maybe for 20 or 30 hours.
Wow.
Then we get ready to go into the milling process. The piñas want to fall into the shredder, then the fiber will come out, gets into the 2 centrifuge mills. It will extract the fiber, but we inject high pressure water, and the juice is falling into the stainless system on the floor. That juice, we're going to send it over into a centrifuge filter. We'll extract all the impurities before getting into the fermentation tank.
Okay. Once that ferments, the yeast dies, you've got the sugar, you then distill that. Is that correct?
Right.
That is amazing. Where are your distillation tanks?
They're right around the corner. We go check them out?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Awesome.
You gotta
Yeah.
try this cooked agave.
Oh, let's do it.
Amazing. It's amazing. Here, try it, Mike. Tastes like sugar cane.
I just bite it?
Yeah, just suck on the juices.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You really taste the sugars that come out. That's the juice that we take out. So eventually becomes.
So you squeeze this, and that's what you ferment and then distill.
Exactly.
Man, that's good.
Good one.
That's so cool.
Now we're heading into our fermentation process.
The smell is amazing.
It is, yeah. That's the carbon dioxide exhaled by the yeast. By the way, you can feel the heat.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, you really feel it.
Yeah. You can see this rinse around. This is the cooling system. So the yeast in the process, it is called exothermical process. So you don't want it too hot. No, because the yeast start dying, and we're going to lose maybe 12,000 liters of tequila at the end. You can bend a little bit over and smell it. Easy, okay?
Yeah.
The kegs. Okay?
Oh boy.
These are the stills.
We have 5 stainless cells.
Okay.
4 big pots are called the sorting cell for the first distillation process. And the last one, that's the rectificator for the second distillation process.
Oh, so you distill it twice?
512 is 3 times still.
Oh, wow. Wow, look at you guys go. Now, what is in this tank behind me right now?
Ordinario.
Ordinario.
Once it's distilled one time, it's called ordinario.
Interesting.
So we didn't get a smell of what's in the tank.
I won't be burned again. Yeah, okay, interesting. It almost smells like yogurt?
Yeah. As long as it's distilled one time,
Right.
tanks are here.
Yeah.
And then it goes into the further distillation process to become first tequila, and then the third time to become tequila 512. And then it comes off and stills at a very high proof, which we might have something to try at still proof over here, I believe.
Ooh, so this is coming right off the still.
This is it. So this is 120 proof. So this is the final stop on the distillation part of the process.
Ooh, that smells good.
But you notice it almost evaporates in the mouth.
Obviously, it gets really hot because of that high alcohol content, but it doesn't get in the way of the flavor at all. It's really very sweet. This will get down to 40% and then bottled? Yeah.
Correct. So it's the filtration,
Okay.
oxidation process, bring the proof down to our typical proof, and then bottle.
Oh, man, guys, this is amazing. Cheers. Salud. So I've scootered my way through Austin, and I've landed here at Lazarus Brewing, meeting up with Christian Kreider, the owner of Lazarus, and I hear he's got the beer, which means he's my friend. Oh, hey Christian, how's it going? You're on a ladder.
I am. Everybody thinks that when you own a brewery, it's real sexy, but what it means is you get to fix stuff when it breaks.
Yeah,
So-
look at you. Amazing.
It's cold out here.
Yeah.
Go inside.
Good to see
Good
you.
to see you. Come on in.
Thanks, man.
Welcome to the cool store.
Oh, yeah. This is super cool. This used to be a garage?
It's been different things. When we got it most recently, it was actually a convenience store, but it was called the Cool Store. And it was kind of an icon in this neighborhood. There were probably a lot of people that were worried, are we just gonna tear it down? Frankly, it would have been cheaper. Everything in this building was literally falling apart. At one point, there had been a fire, it burned about 3/4 of the roof, and they just sheetrocked it. So we came in and said, how do we actually try to honor what was here, but we're clearly gonna have to fix it up. And so we said, well, let's try to make it feel like the Cool Store made cool again.
Is there beer in these barrels behind me?
There is beer in many of these barrels.
Wow.
Some of them are still being filled. Anything that goes through wood is gonna come through this building.
This building.
Over here.
How did you get into brewing beer?
That's crazy. This is my third career.
Okay.
First career, I spent 14 years in software. Then I actually moved into ministry.
wow.
Spent 7 years in Missoula, Montana. Along the way there, I fell in love with tap rooms, but I also planted hops. They took over my garden, and once I had all the hops, I was like, well, I gotta do something
You don't really
with them.
eat hops, do you?
So I told my wife I have to buy some equipment to brew some beer because we wouldn't want to waste this. That
Being
was,
responsible,
that was
saving
kind
the
of
earth.
the beginning of this unexpected journey into not just drinking beer, but brewing beer, and also learning how beer can bring people together. Speaking of beer, here we go.
This looks incredible. This is a lot of beer.
Yes, this is a super flight.
I love
We
that.
do regular flights, but
Okay.
if you're gonna share beers with a friend,
Sure.
we thought this is kind of our equivalent of a pitcher. This is a Franconia lager on
Okay.
the lighter end of the scale. So this is going to be very crisp, very clean. It's got a little bit more body to it.
Okay.
It's not as dry as a Pilsner. A little bit of sweetness, kind of toasty crackers.
Literally, when you said toasty, I started feeling that a lot.
is just super drinkable.
Yeah, that's
This
good.
one is Signs and Wonders.
Okay.
Which is our robust porter. Very, very.
Yeah, like chocolatey, almost a little coffee kind of thing going on.
I get some molasses. in
For
there.
sure, yes,
Yep.
definitely. The different names, so you got like a lager, we've got a porter, that comes from the brew method, is that correct?
Yeah, so beers have originated from all over the world, and you have different regions, different styles that have kind of developed. So
Sure.
porter would have started in England. Originally, it was really popular with kind of the working class porters.
Sure.
So you have porters and stouts, they're kind of similar to one another. Most beers, an ale will ferment. So here's an example.
Yeah.
40 Days and 40 Nights, our flagship IPA. Super, super hoppy, but very, very smooth. So a lot of people think that IPAs are going to be bitter.
You get what you smell, which
Yeah.
is really pretty amazing. You get that citrusy, like almost a sweetness there in the middle.
Now we can turn this beer around in a couple of weeks versus a lager will take 4 to 6 weeks to actually really allow it to kind of smooth itself out. This is a Belgian strong golden.
Okay.
Called Amandus in honor of Saint Amandus, who was
Okay.
a Belgian patron saint of brewers, innkeepers, bartenders, hospitality. really.
Amazing, yeah.
Taste the difference between that. You're smelling the yeast. You're getting banana and
Okay.
clove, which a Belgian yeast is going to produce.
You absolutely get that. This is more of a fruity kind of sweetness, and this is the sweet's coming from somewhere else. I know you do a lot of things seasonally.
Yeah.
How many types of beer would you say that you brew in a given 12
Well, our
months?
first year, we brewed, I think, over 50 different beers.
Speaking of variety, I'm excited about this one here.
Yeah, so the last one here, this is our winter seasonal. This is called First Noel.
Love it.
And this is our winter wild ale. There is a lot going on in that beer.
After I swallow that sip, there's so much that lingers. What causes it to linger like that aromatic?
A lot of this is going to be the character of the bread working in the beer.
That's the bread, got it.
So anything that is a wild ale actually ferments multiple times. A wild ale will start like any other beer. We brew it over there, but then we pipe it over here. Normally yeast will actually eat the sugar,
Right.
generates alcohol, but it only eats down to a certain point. There's always some residual sugar left over that the yeast just can't process.
Yeah, it's full.
But wild bacteria
Okay.
can take that down further, and they can eat all of it. So we kind of have two different strains, if you want to call it that. One is kind of some typical traditional wild bacteria. The other is something that we're cultivating literally out of the atmosphere from here, this location.
You're getting your own wild bacteria. Essentially what you're doing is you're getting the literal flavor of Austin.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Very, very cool. So this particular beer has been re-fermented a third time with figs. And then sometimes we will drop those beers into barrels as well.
The beautiful thing about the beverage world, so many people think a good drink is sweet, and there's so much more than just sweetness that you can get from especially beer. There's so many flavors that you can find in things like this, and it doesn't always have to be sweet.
We have people all the time that say, I don't like beer, which is fine because we have other things, but what I've found is almost everybody actually does like beer. They just haven't met the beer that they like yet.
Sure. I would love to see how you make these. Can we check that out?
We can absolutely do that.
Shall we?
Absolutely.
Awesome. And it's bumping.
Oh yeah. Come on back.
All right.
Hey Rebecca, this is Cooper.
Hey Rebecca.
Cooper, this is my daughter
Nice
Rebecca.
to meet you.
She's one of our assistant brewers. She'll be giving you a tour of the brew house.
I'm so excited.
All right.
Thank you so
I'll
much,
let you
Rebecca.
take it from
Awesome.
there.
I'm excited. Well, let's start by getting you in some rubber boots.
Oh, I have rubber boots. Okay, should I describe these right
Yeah,
here?
go for it. I don't have pink. I'm sorry.
I really wanted pink. How did
I
you
know. So we're gonna head down this
I'll follow
way.
you for real.
We're at the very beginning of the process.
Okay.
So this is my mash tun. You'll actually see a split tank here. So the mash tun is on top, hot liquor tank on the bottom.
Oh, very interesting.
So you've got 620 gallons of hot water in the bottom tank
Okay.
and absolutely nothing up top right now.
What would go up?
That would be malt that's been ground up and mixed with hot water.
And does the amount of malt or what go up there change from beer to beer, or is that always pretty much the same?
That
Okay, it changes.
always changes, yeah. So that actually greatly influences our final alcohol.
Wow,
in
so
the beer.
from step one,
From
you're
step one.
deciding what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Would you mind if we go take a look?
Yeah, let's go up there.
Awesome.
All right, here is your mash tuns.
This
where
is still
everything
warm.
happens. Yeah, well, it helps that there's hot water in the tank below. It adds some heat.
So the hot liquor tank is just hot water.
Yes, and we have a cold liquor tank behind you as well.
And liquor is just water.
Liquor is just water. Brewers like to use fancy words that mean nothing.
Awesome.
So what we're doing here is called mashing in. We're going to be bringing in malt that's ground outside and brought in through an auger, which is above your head, that goes all the way outside to my mill. So it gets dropped in here, and then we're mixing it with hot water. We're actually physically stirring everything together by hand.
Amazing. How long will it be in this tank?
Should be 3 hours.
3 hours.
From here, we're going to pull all of the wort off, which is basically just sugar water.
Where does it go?
It comes from here into the brew kettle, which is right behind you.
Oh, look at that. And it's empty.
Yes.
Oh, and hot.
Yeah, this is where we boil it.
Okay.
So that sterilizes it. You'll get some color reactions in there, so that kind of determines what the final color of your beer is going to be.
Oh, interesting.
If you're familiar with toasting bread, it's the
Yeah.
exact same reaction. And then this is also where we add hops.
I see.
And those actually stabilize it and protect it from any sort of bacterial contamination.
There you go. That is awesome.
From here, we're going to send it into a fermenter and add yeast.
Dang it. There we go. These are the fermentation tanks, yeah?
Right here.
Right.
This is where all the magic happens.
Amazing. So what actually happens in the fermentation tank?
This is where it officially becomes beer.
Okay.
In here is where we send everything through sterile lines. We want to keep it as clean as possible because you don't want bacteria getting in there.
Right, that sounds bad.
While we're putting it in, we're adding the yeast to it. Yeast is going crazy and it's fermenting all of that sugar into alcohol and CO2.
Okay.
That can take anywhere from 4 days to 30 days.
Wow.
Depending on what you're making.
So you do the fermentation. Where does it go after here?
Then it goes to the bright tanks.
Okay.
And that's in our cold room over here.
Shall we head over to the cold room?
Before we do that, do you want to actually try some yeast?
Oh, I get to do that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have to sanitize this because everything needs to be sterile.
Okay.
You don't want to infect this beer.
Or me.
And exactly. So now we're going to get a sample into the cup.
That doesn't even look
All right.
like poop.
That's yeast.
Okay.
You can literally just feel it. So like get some on your hand.
Okay.
It's got a super fluffy texture.
Whoa.
So that's because there
like
is
a
so
batter.
much CO2 in there. And then you can actually taste it.
Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this feels like this is going to be a darker beer.
Yes, this is our Irish dry stout.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you'll notice it's kind of tart.
Yeah.
That's because yeast loves acidity. So lower pH, happier your yeast.
I've heard you want happy yeast.
You always want happy yeast.
Happy yeast. Right into the cold room.
Here we are.
And it is cold.
Yes. Okay, this is where we're serving all of our beer from.
Oh, okay.
So these giant tanks are full of beer.
So this goes straight to the draft.
Yes, this is a long draw draft system.
Okay.
So these lines are about 350 feet long, going up to the ceiling, down, under the floor, to the taps.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Because I imagine freshness is a big factor with your beer.
One of the biggest things that contributes to beer going bad is oxygen pickup. And when you're putting it into cans or bottles, you're going to be picking up some amount
You're
of
gonna
oxygen.
get oxygen, yeah.
I don't have to worry about that. Especially for some like IPAs with all of those hops, coming straight off the tanks, you're just getting a better, fresher beer.
That is amazing. Rebecca, thank you so much. I'm gonna go meet up with your dad and grab a beer.
Good idea.
Cool. And get out of the cold.
Yes.
How you doing, man?
This is awesome, dude. Thank you so much for letting me hang today.
Absolutely. What can I get you? You need a beer.
I think I do, and I'd love to try something different.
Okay, got it for you.
Oh, I'm excited.
This is Nottingham, English IPA. Unlike anything you've ever had. Great way to end the night. Enjoy.
Christian, thanks so much, man.
Absolutely.
It's a blast.
You have a good time.
All right, that's all for Lazarus. That's all for Austin. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time with Bottled, Barreled, and Brewed. Cheers. All right, cheers, guys. Woo. All right. Same, dude. Do you like beer, Duck? Me too. You seem like a dark beer guy. Duck beer. That doesn't work. This is all I can think of to say to Duck. He's leaving. Bye, Duck. Hate that guy. Here at Bottled, Barreled, and Brewed, we're all about excellence over excess. So please, enjoy responsibly.